Hello listeners, Tim Sylvie here. Well, that's another season done and dusted. We've covered all sorts of topics and chats over the last few weeks, some funny, some sad, some informative and insightful, some scary and downright frustrating. I've been joined by some brilliant guest hosts, including the massive F1 content creator Tom McCluskey and former IndyCar and F1 driver Max Chilton, and we've got more familiar faces joining me to host in season 14. In the last 10 shows, we've interviewed an Alpine F1 Academy rising star, a Williams racing protege, a British Touring Car Championship hopeful, F1 broadcasters, content creators, founders, an IndyCar winner, and the most successful Formula E driver of all time, trailblazers and pioneers, and it's been amazing. We've had several women on the show to champion diversity and inclusion, and that's come with its own amazing stories, but also interesting challenges, and even our pal Tiff Needell dedicated an entire podcast of his very own to talk about our show, dissecting our episode with Jess McFadden, or McFadden as it should be pronounced, and Chris Medland, where we tackled the ever-present discussion around women in motorsport, something that not everyone, it appears, is up for talking about, but thank you Tiff for the extra coverage. We've also been joined by our amazing sponsors at F1 Experiences once again, and this is your last call to benefit from our discount code MMPodcast. If you type that in when you check out f1experiences.com, you'll get your 5% off your next F1 Experience package. We've hit 150 episodes and thousands upon thousands of downloads, so a massive thank you for listening. It's been amazing to think we've reached so many listeners, but I know that a huge number of you that are listening are still doing it without following or subscribing. It makes a huge difference if you do, because the bigger this show gets, the bigger our guests become. Please hit that follow button and leave a review. In next season, season 14, you can expect to hear from one of the most controversial racing drivers around, the most famous father in Formula One, an Olympian turned racer, and we're even looking at some live shows, so watch this space. But before all that, I've brought back someone very special to the show for a quick hello and a chin wag, a man that's been with us since the very start, and what a year he had in 2022. Harry Benjamin, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. The prodigal son returns. No, it's nice to be back. I'm sorry I haven't been here for a while, but it sounds like you've had it more than covered. But the guests you've had on have been very, very top notch as usual, and even Tiff Needell rang me up, even though I didn't have anything to do with that particular episode. Rang me up to talk about it, and I was like, Tiff, I hadn't listened to it yet, and I was like, Tiff, I don't know, like, and the signal was really bad, so it was one of those really awkward conversations where he kept cutting out like every 2 minutes, and I was like,
he wasn't happy. He was fine. To be honest, to be fair to him, in his podcast, he was really complimentary about the show itself. He said, it's a great podcast, and good people. But he did go in a bit on Jess and Chris about women in motorsport, not females. I must remember not to call them females. Women in motorsport, yeah. So interesting. I mean, it's good to get everyone's views, isn't it? And opinions. He's
a great guy. He just wanted a debate about it. I think he was just a bit fed up of the narrative of Twitter, and I think he just wanted to properly go into it. Which is actually fair play to him, because
completely,
he is of that generation that we always say, but he actually wants to have a discussion about it, which separates him from the rest, I think. So but it was fun to get me back. That got me just before Christmas, and then I was like, Tim, I'm good to do a few more if you want me to.
Maybe we should get Tiff back on and have a good one. He did challenge us. He said, what did he call a pod off? He wants to have a pod off. So
wait, did you do that one on your own, or was it Tomo or somebody with you?
No, with Jess and Chris, it was me and Tomo. Yeah. I mean, Chris had some really good views. They both did. It was really interesting. But I get it. Everyone, like I say, everyone has different opinions on it. And it is a hot topic of discussion. But anyway, we move on. But we will have our pod off with Tiff at some point, I'm sure. Now, back to you. For our listeners who might be new and haven't been back over our archives and heard the older shows, you've hosted, I'm pretty sure, over 100 MotorMouth podcasts episodes alongside me. Have you missed it? Have you missed it?
No, of course I have. No, I'll be brutally honest. I think I needed a bit of a break. after that many, if I'm brutally honest.
It's a lot.
It was nice to just like not, because it's so. It feels so bad to say it, but like it's such a privilege to be able to talk to these people. Like I'm always amazed at how bigger guests we got so early on, like David Coulthard, Mario Andretti. You know, back in the Zoom lockdown days, it was mental. But I think all that, we were doing them so regularly, I just needed a bit of a break from asking people about their lives. So, if I'm brutally honest, as interesting as it is, and then it was nice. Obviously, I've been a bit busier this year, which has been great. But then I actually miss that insight that you get, because even though you can ask the same questions, right, to 100 people, but you'll get 100, especially in motorsport, you'll get 100 different answers. And every time people talk about, it's the first thing they bring up when they talk to me. It's always the MotorMouth podcast and how do you get all these guests and stuff. And they want to talk about the big names and whatever. Like, I think the last one we got, that I did with you was Alex Albon, right, which is obviously a big name. Yeah. But I always talk about, you know what, I've forgotten his name. I can't remember it. Who was the team principal of Lotus Renault that we got on?
Oh.
Was it Matt something?
Matthew.
Matthew.
Oh, Matthew.
Terrible, wasn't it? Matthew. Oh. That's how you know you've done over 100 episodes.
Yeah, I know the guy you mean.
Oh, this is really bad. Matthew Lotus, right? And I always say that he is the one that stands out to me the most. Actually, it's always the one I talk about because, ironically enough, I can't remember his last name. But
find it.
You find that while I fill. But his story, and if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it in the archives. It's somewhere. And his whole story was about being brought into the Lotus Renault team at a time when they were going through huge financial difficulties, and he was brought in to sort house, basically. Matthew Carter, that was it. And he was based in Canada at the time. And he was brought in to sort house financially, really. And then all of a sudden, Eric Boulier left, and then he was the most sort of senior person, and they stuck him as team principal, even though he had no F1 experience, no management motorsport experience. He came from a financial world, and after dealing with Kimi Räikkönen and Romain Grosjean at that time was just fascinating to hear all the stories. So it's one of my favourite episodes, and that it's always the ones you don't expect, I think. Like, oh my God, it was a privilege to talk to Mario Andretti, to Nico Rosberg, to Alex Albon, but people like Matthew Carter, they're the stories you really will not hear anywhere else, and that's what I love, and that's what I missed.
It's that peek behind the curtain. And people like Rosberg were good, but he kind of towed a media line, didn't he? You know, he wasn't going to say anything. No. Whereas Matthew was perfectly happy to say anything, really. He didn't care. That's episode 41, in case anyone wants to go back and listen to it.
Long ago, wow.
I know, which is a long time ago. But we've got more interesting people coming up who will probably have similar views. I'm not saying publicly who it is yet. I mean, even though most people have guessed. But, you know, when you say a famous F1 dad, I think, you know, you default to one. But there are certain individuals that we've got coming up that are going to be very, very interesting indeed. Now, again, for those new listeners who may not, or even our older listeners who may have listened to you previously, what have you been doing since you were last on the show? You've been a busy boy.
I've just been kicking about, really. No, I mean, I got at the start of the year, I got the opportunity to be the lead commentator for FIA Formula 3 for FOM, Formula 1 Management. And obviously that goes out on Sky and all across the world, and that was obviously a pretty big deal for me, and stepping into the shoes of Alex Jakes, who focused on his a million other categories that he does. And alongside that, I was doing Porsche Supercup and things like that. And then very quickly, I got asked to cover on the BBC Radio 5 Live's Formula 1 coverage, to be the lead comms, to stand in for our good mate Jack Nichols, who does Formula E. So the clashes that happened. So suddenly I was doing F1. You know, at the start of the year, I wasn't even thinking I was doing F3. I really thought it would be another year of Porsche Supercup, to be honest. And then F3, F1, and then F1 TV called me up to do, of all the bloody Grand Prix, the Japanese one. Like, come on, man, give me a break. Like, Jesus Christ. And
was that the one where you were padding like mad?
Padding like mad. Didn't know. Checkered flag didn't come out. Didn't know if it was the last race. We all thought it was a timed race. Was Max Verstappen world champion? Jesus Christ! Give a new commentator a break, man.
Yeah, nightmare. You did. I remember listening to you on the. It's very surreal listening to you on the radio, because it all happened so fast. You know, 1 minute you're there, like you say, doing no disrespect to certain types of commentary, but let's say lesser listened to commentary on certain race series, and then all of a sudden, just there you are on Radio 5 Live, unbelievable. And it was weird listening to you. And I used to put I would put your commentary over the top of the pitches. And enjoy it that way, but it was a very surreal moment and a proud moment because when we first met, what were you doing? You were doing bits and pieces. You were just sort of getting going on your sort of commentary and presenting journey, and to see you move so quickly from that to fronting the biggest race series on the planet on a national radio, well, an international radio show was astounding. So. Amazing, and long may it continue. Do you know what's going to happen this year for you? Do you know the plans yet?
Roughly, but it's still being organised. I am going to be doing more BBCs, which is great. I'm doing 4 races this year, I can confirm. And it's basically the 4 that clash with Formula E. So anytime Jack has a Formula E clash, they bring me in. Which is great because last year they sort of offered me the Australian Grand Prix and then they were like, yeah, there might be a couple more, but let's see how you do with Australia. So I was like, right, okay, Australia is the audition, right? Let's not fuck that one up. Pardon my French. And then obviously didn't, and then did a couple more and got to go to Silverstone and be trackside, and that was beyond my wildest dreams. And then they've invited me back to do some more. So I'm doing Miami this year. Imola.
From Miami. Or from the UK?
They're all from the UK. So yeah, but what's even more heartbreaking is that Miami was originally scheduled to be on site, but now it's from London. So Miami, Imola, Spain, and Belgium. But I'm still trying to sort things out because they. The clashes are a nightmare now because that clashes with a load of Formula 3, and if I'm not. If I'm in BBC London, I can't do Formula 3, so now we're trying to figure that one out, and then I want you're trying to get trackside to a few more, so it's a lot of hard work, like off season as well, trying to balance everything. Like my brain is frazzled, so we'll see. So I'm still ironing out a few things, but I can't. Last year was amazing, and I can't complain. And a million people would kill to do that, and I loved every minute of it. But it really sucked the energy out of me. Like over Christmas, I was dead, to be honest, absolutely dead.
Now, talking to BBC 5 Live and Formula 1 commentary, we have to do a little nod to our friend Jenny. Jenny Gow, who recently took to Twitter to announce that she's had quite a serious stroke, which is hugely upsetting. We both got to know her pretty well over the last few years, and she is one of the best in the business and a seriously nice person. So our thoughts are with her and her family in what must be a really difficult time. Quite shocking news to hear, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was in complete shock, to be honest. I spoke to her just before Christmas on the phone. She was helping me figure out what to do with 5 Live and stuff like that. So, and I've got to know her. I mean, I've known her for a few years. I used to be her runner, as we always talk about. But then this year, obviously, working alongside her, she was such a massive help and support. I mean, she really put me through it in my first race. She probably dropped me in a few times to see if I'd swim. But I kind of appreciate that. And she's just brilliant at what she does. Like, there's a reason she's done it for so long. It's because she's really good. And I was just in complete shock. I know she's got a young daughter as well, and she's got her brilliant husband there as well who's looking after her. But I mean, it's a horrible thing to happen, and I'm still in a little bit of shock, really. So I'm just keeping fingers crossed that she makes a recovery in time for Bahrain. So we'll see.
Yeah, 100%. Well, all our best wishes out to Jenny and her family. Hopefully a speedy, as we can expect, recovery. Let's talk Formula 1. You're ingrained in the sport now. Interested to get your views. 2023, will Max Verstappen do it again? Harry Benjamin, what's the scoop?
No, he won't. It will be a 3-team fight at the front, and we won't know who's going to win each race. That's what I think. That's what I'm hoping for.
I love that. I love that optimism.
Yeah, I just think. Well, I do think that Mercedes will come back reinvigorated. I think Red Bull will obviously be at the top again, and I think I'm hoping Ferrari with Fred Vasseur at the helm now. Yeah. Not that I didn't think Mattia Binotto was a bad team principal, but what the Ferrari mantra is like. But I think they'll come back with renewed force. I think they would have learnt a lot from 2022. And then I think we could have outside bets from the likes of Alpine. You know, I think they had a really actually strong year. If they get the reliability up to scratch, and now they've got Gasly as well alongside Ocon. You know, that could be a really fiery pair. So I think we could have a sort of really good battle at the sharp end, and as well as the midfield's always good. Really, like it's always a tough scrap in the midfield. I think we've got decent driver lineups. I'm actually quite kind of pleased to see Hulkenberg back. I know that's a bit controversial, but you know, I feel like that's a good Haas lineup. Actually, it's a strong...
and he's good banter, isn't he? Like, have you seen that video floating around with Ted already? Where I saw it on TikTok yesterday. You know, good to see you back, Nico, and they start basically slagging each other off. And he's got some oomph, Nico.
And he has. I did some electric scooter racing last year, right? And one of the one of the trainers for all the athletes is Nico Hulkenberg's personal trainer. Lovely guy, and I started chatting to him for ages, just getting to know him. And he was, and it was during the week that it was all ramping up about, is it going to be Mick Schumacher or Nico Hulkenberg? And I was like, what's the sitch? Come on. And he said, I don't know. Honestly, I'm waiting for Nico finds out today. I'm waiting for a call to see if I've got a job for next year, basically. Because if Nico gets the job, then he gets the job as well. So it was fascinating just to see the outside of it. He was like, I don't know. Nico said he wants to come back to Formula One because he was like, I've done world endurance. He has no interest in Formula E. He tried an IndyCar, but he doesn't want to move his whole family over to America. It's a whole cultural life shift. He's got a young kid, and you know, the first time he did world endurance, he went in with Porsche and won it. So, you know, and won 24-hour Le Mans and I think Spa as well. So he was like, he's achieved all he wants to do in that. So what's the thing he still hasn't achieved in? It's probably Formula One and at the pinnacle. And if he gets a shot with Haas, he's obviously going to take it. So I think the Hulk is still hungry as ever. And then we get to see some rookies alongside as well. You know, Oscar Piastri, after all the hype. Let's see what that's about.
Yeah.
Logan Sargent. Nick De Vries, you know, can he follow up that 8th place in Italy? And what's he going to be like along Yuki? I think there's going to be so many interesting stories. And I think the battles are going to be better. Like, I was a bit disappointed this year because of all the hype over the engine regulation, over the technical regulations. But I think they'll only get better now that we've settled into it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Who's your? I mean, we talked there. You know, you've got the likes of, you know, Alpine and others that might spring us a few surprises. But do you have like a dark horse? Which driver do you think is going to shock us in 2023?
Ooh, shock us. I think that's a really hard question. Because, like, I mean, I'm really intrigued by the battle between Norris and Piastri and who's going to come out on top there. I imagine Norris might have the better angle just for sheer experience. But you know what? I actually think someone like a Zhou Guanyu and an Alfa Romeo could be a bit of a dark horse. Like, I think he actually had a really good rookie year, despite what the numbers say. Like, his reliability and bad luck was actually just a joke. You know, he scored points in his first race. Valtteri Bottas has said he's so impressed by how calm and collected Zhou was in his first year. Like, he didn't make any big rookie mistakes that you would expect. And he was only, if he wasn't beating Bottas, he was within a couple of tenths. And that's Valtteri Bottas. Like, he's no mean feat. You know, I know everyone thinks he's rubbish compared to Hamilton, but that was Hamilton.
Oh, no, he's class. He's class.
But Bottas was always a good qualifier. And Zhou Guanyu was out qualifying in, I can't remember how many races it was in a row, but it was quite a lot. Bottas went through a rough patch. But I actually think if Alfa Romeo can... They stepped it up last year, and I think the only way is up for them. So I'm going to go Zhou Guanyu as my dark horse.
I think it's a good shout. And a nice bloke. Another guy we've had on the podcast, incidentally. And was a very nice chap. Has a whole country behind him roaring him on. So, let's see how he gets on. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Lando Norris this year. Like you say, up against a new teammate. And sort of feel like something needs to happen for Norris now. You know, it's been long enough, and McLaren need to give him a car that's capable of consistently winning races, or I can see him getting a little bit hacked off. You know, he's such a talent, and it feels a little bit like if he doesn't have a good year, a really solid year and a solid car, that things could get interesting in 24. When are we going to see you and hear you on the podcast again? I heard a little rumour, Harry Benjamin, that you might be coming back for a show or two.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, whenever the next season is, I mean, this time of year is a bit dead. So
I've got you.
Yeah. No, I'd love to come back. I think I've missed it, and as is probably fairly obvious. I think having been here from the start, and I feel like I know it's MotorMouth is your business, but I feel that the podcast is sort of our baby a little bit, that we created together. So it's as great as Tomo was, he can bugger off now.
Well, I think he's. I mean, he'll do shows here and there. I think he's got a very busy year ahead as well, and he hopped in for a number of shows. And one thing that we have started doing.
I enjoyed Chilton.
He was good.
He was a great co-host.
He was good. Well, it's interesting it's nice having a driver as a co-host, because they offer that unique perspective and they probe in areas that you or I wouldn't think to go down. And having him talk with Hinchtown, James Hinchcliffe, was really interesting. And they're friends anyway. They're buddies. They get on well. But it was good, and Max really enjoyed it, so he'll do more. Ollie
good.
Webb is going to do some as well. He's going to come and guest host, and we've got probably 2 or 3 others, not known names, but people in the industry who have been in the industry for Formula One for a number of years that are quite keen to co-host as well. But I think I think you and I are going to try and get together for Michael's show. This is Daniel Ricciardo's previous trainer, who was with him through all his years in Formula One. Which should be quite interesting. So there's lots to come. So listeners, you will be hearing the dulcet tones of Harry Benjamin on the MotorMouth podcast once again, and seeing that beautiful beard, which is just cultivating so nicely.
It needs a bit of a shape up, really, for those who can't see. It needs a little bit of a shape up.
Yeah, you could do the little chisel here or there. No greys there yet, though, so you're doing well.
No, they're on the top of my head.
Yeah, on the fro. Yeah,
your beard's coming along well, I see.
Well, this is just laziness, and this is about as long as it gets. Yeah. So I do need a shave. Actually, I need to buy a new razor before I can shave. That's my issue. So yeah, but mine is grey, fully grey. Oh, and we'll also see you, of course, at the karting in June.
Yeah, absolutely. Dates blocked out.
Which we're going to do again, and you'll probably jump in the commentary box a bit. Chris Stevens is going to do a bit of commentary as well, and Anthony Jordan will be back, and then all our various celebrities and pro drivers. So looking forward to that. But Harry, before I let you go, and before we shut things down for season 13 and look towards season 14, I thought, seeing as you've asked these 3 questions to over 100 people over the course of many, many episodes, I thought I'd ask them to you. So here we go. The famous MotorMouth Final 3, brought to us by our friends at F1 Experiences. Number 1, Harry, what's got you excited at this very moment?
What has got me excited? This is why I much prefer asking the questions. I'm not very good at answering them. What's got me excited at the moment? I think, in general, probably 2023. I'm excited for what's to come. I don't know exactly what is to unfold, but I'm excited for the year ahead. Good.
Very good. Very good answer. Very sensible answer. Well done. Well done. How much of your success? I don't know why I don't need to ask you these. You know what's coming. How much of your success do you put down to luck and right place, right time, and how much do you put down to sheer hard work?
Or hard work. Sorry, nearly. I would say you make your own luck, but you still need that little bit of just good happening. So I think 10% luck, 90% hard work, because the harder you work, the more places you put yourself in, the more chance you have of something happening, and that little 10% of extra luck is the cherry on the cake to make all the stars align. So that's what I would say to that.
Well said. Final one. What are you scared of?
Oh, I mean, I could do a insects, bugs thing, which absolutely scare the life out of me. But maybe I'll do the racing driver one. And it's not quite failure, but it's more not enjoying things in the moment as much. Like, I feel like I'm constantly looking for the next thing, because you achieve one thing and then you're like, great, right, how do I then utilize that to go on to the next thing? How do I keep this going? And sometimes I am guilty of not enjoying it enough in the moment, or realizing quite what I've done, because I'm always looking for the next thing, which is hard to get out of. So that's my what I'm scared of.
I think that's a good one, and I agree. I'm the same. And then you look back and think, I wish I'd enjoyed it more when I was in that moment. Yeah, it's an interesting one, but very difficult when you're sort of charging around 1,000,000 miles an hour, isn't it? Well, listen, we'll keep it brief. It's 25 minutes. We'll keep it short, and it's been so nice having you back on a podcast. I can't wait for us to do another guest episode again. I'm thinking if we can wangle it, we'll do the F1 famous dad, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that everyone knows who it is, because he lives round the corner from me, which is quite handy. So maybe we'll do that one. Yeah, literally 15 minutes down the road.
Wow.
Oh shit! I mean, I don't know why I'm hiding it. Everyone knows who it is. It's obviously Anthony Hamilton, and so he literally lives 15 minutes down the A1. So
you know who I was? I didn't know it was Hamilton.
Did you not?
I was thinking famous dad. Who? And all I could think of was Stroll. And I was like, Lawrence Stroll lives near
Oh my
you.
god, he'd be amazing. Oh, I'm going to get him.
Yeah,
that's going to be my New Year's resolution, to get Lawrence Stroll. Let's get it. That would be so good.
Yeah, that would be a good one. But that was the only name I could think of. I was like, who? Oh, obviously Hamilton.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
it's Hamilton. So we're gonna. It's because I was lucky enough to have a beer or two with him in Miami, and he committed to it. He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." And we've spoken on text since, and he's up for it. So let's make that happen.
Amazing.
Well, that's it for now. We'll be back for season 14 soon. Don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. A reminder to follow us. Please subscribe on your podcast player. It really, really does make a difference. Check us out on social media. Just search for MotorMouth. Have a look at our website with our live timings and news at motormouth.club. Enter a team at our karting event, 20th of June this year. Come and say hi. We'll have historic F1 cars and hot laps, and Harry will be there, and lots of other pros and celebrities. Head to motormouthkartrace.com to book your team there. Feel free to message us on social media. Get in touch with me or Harry or Imi, our social admin. And if there's anyone you think we should be speaking to on the show, let us know. Harry, any last words?
Have a great new year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everyone. See you in season 14.